All right, there, family. Welcome back to the So What Show. We're going into Message to the Black Man in America by Elijah Muhammad today. Foreword, the truth about Muhammad. It has been more than 40 years since a Negro has appeared on the national horizon of racial leadership with a program for his people. As controversial and as clear cut as that of Elijah Muhammad. Not since the days of Marcus Garvey, the West Indian visionary back in 1920, has an either or else plan of Negro salvation been placed before the people that is as sharply outlined as to consequences as that of Muhammad. Garvey's Back to Africa slogan, based solely on vivid black nationalism, electrified Negroes to the point where more than 5 million joined his ranks and defied the pudgy black man whom they worshiped with their love and their loyalty. His Universal Negro Improvement Association, that eventually spread throughout the world wherever black people are found, was primarily a mass movement designed to absorb the little man. This is also true of Elijah Muhammad's temples of Islam. His movement is based solidly on awakening the great masses of America's 20 million Negroes to the truth of their racial heritage and destiny. Like Marcus Garvey, Muhammad is building his religious group on a non-white basis, and like Garvey has irrefutable reasons for excluding whites. Muhammad was born the son of a rural Georgia minister. He learned on the bare rudiments of reading, writing, and arithmetic before he had to go to the fields to help his family earn a living. But Muhammad, born Elijah Poe under the slave name of his parents, as Garvey had been before him, was particularly fitted to be a teacher of men. Not in the sense of the popular conception of classroom teachers, of rote and dogma, but in the classic molds of the great teachers of history. Socrates, Aristotle, Siddhartha, Gautama, the Buddha, Guru Nanak, Confucius, Narashta, Moses, Muhammad, and Jesus Christ, most of whom were largely unlettered men. They taught the truth of life in its practical essence, taking the torch of mental freedom among the great masses of mankind and thus enlightening the world rather, of their day. They persisted in spreading their momentarily glimpses of the truth to all mankind in the face of the murderous opposition of the priesthood, the hostility of kings, and the general unwillingness of men to hear the error of their ways. These men were known as priests and as rabbis, as teachers. Some were believed to be gods in disguise. Whatever the popular thinking about their true identity, what they taught and the good they brought to the world was of greater import and impact. the dramatic, spectacular climb of Muhammad from a sharecropper's cotton patch in Sandersville, Georgia, to national and international eminence as a leader of his people and one that must be told at another time. The Muslim name Muhammad was given him over 30 years ago by his own teacher in the Islamic faith. Today, Muhammad says, God's goal is to give all my people holy names to replace those given them by the slave master, open enemy, while they were in physical and mental bondage in America. He points that the names his followers are known by are just as legal as those given them by the white man or adopted by the descendants of former slaves. Muhammad himself was known as Kareem before he was called Muhammad. Kareem, he says, is the original name the Prophet Muhammad was known by 1400 years ago. There are more than 100 praiseworthy holy names for God or good, which people in Islam are known by. He says, but white people frequently take the names of beasts, such as bear, hole, fox, or bull, or of marine creatures such as fish, salmon, and so forth. By giving Negroes such names, the white man perpetrates his rule of the black man. A characteristic of Muhammad's teachings is that he never, as Garvey and others did before him, preached back to Africa doctrines as the salvation of the American so-called Negro. Muhammad says America is not the white man's home. He belongs in Europe, and by force took America from our Asiatic brother, the Indian. We have as much right to this soil as the white man. Why should we claim the land of our black brother in Africa, for which he has given his life and labor? It belongs to him. Our destiny, he points out, is right here in America. Right now, Muhammad is nearing that crossroad of all leaders, where the value and extent of his teachings are on trial. Is Golgotha his destination? Will his own people sell him out as they sold out Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington? Can he be destroyed? Toppled by jealous rivals? Picked to pieces by other enemies? Bent on reducing him to size? These are explosive questions that should be examined in the light of the consistent drive to discredit the mild-mannered, soft-spoken, slightly built little man who directs an unprecedented nationwide all-Negro movement based on the teachings of Islam. Submission to the commands of Allah, the God of the Muslims, Islam. Wherever black men and women are found in the United States, these 50 states, his followers point out there are followers of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. Branch Mosques of Islam are flourishing in Detroit, number 1, Boston, number 7, New York, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Norfolk, Winston-Salem. Interesting. That's Salem. Something about to cross through there with an X in a minute. Newark, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, Birmingham, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami, Jacksonville, Macon, and perhaps another 100 cities, towns, and villages. I've about been up every last one of them cities. As one Muhammad official in Detroit said recently, every time a Negro is beaten by a white mobs or police, a Negro's home is burnt, a cross is planted on a Negro's lawn, or a black man is refused service at a lunch counter, gas station, or hotel, you can count on a minimum of 200 Negroes joining our movement the next day. Among us, they finally find refuge in the company of people their own kind who know where they are going. With membership swelling in such proportions, respect and alarm is growing over the Muhammad movement among both upper-level whites and Negroes. The Negroes opposing Muhammad are mostly those egged on to it by personal jealousy or motivated by their own white sponsors. Right, boy? Who must not be offended or denied unless they have the ground cut from under them in politics, business, or social circles. We see that all the time today. The Negro preachers, while privately agreeing with Muhammad's teachings, are almost to a man afraid to speak up and be identified. They use the traditional ideological opposition of Christianity to Islam as their escape hatch. Yet, in spite of this vast chasm, so far not spanned by followers of either faith, some Negro ministers are speaking up in defense of their convictions that Muhammad deserves to be heard. These are those courageous ministers who have not been afraid to make available their church auditoriums for Muhammad rallies and conventions in Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and elsewhere. The man is teaching the truth, whether he said he gets it from the Christian God or the Muslim Allah. One minister said this in Cleveland, where a recent Muhammad rally attracted 3,000 persons in a heavy rain in the Corey Methodist Church to hear the fiery leader of America's Muslims speak. 3,000. I have to stop here for a minute. Do you have 3,000 that you talk to or you can talk to on your website today? Well, let's say this. Follow the leader. To a man, however, Negro ministers, social agency leaders, and politicians will assure you there is nothing communistic about the Muhammad phenomenon. But most of them are prone to label the spread of the Islamic doctrine as espoused by Muhammad as a form of extreme black nationalism. And I'm not stopping here for a minute. I'm not saying you have to preach Islam. Preach what you preach. As far as I'm concerned, say what you say. Speak the truth to power, okay? You got 3,000, you already got it going. What you waiting on? Huh? You to come back? Oh, let's keep going. Others call it black supremacy. Actually, Muhammad is exposing Negroes for the first time to a brutal appraisal of their actual standing in the American community and what they can expect in the future from a system that under various disguises still grips them in mental, physical, and moral slavery. And after 100 years of alleged freedom from the clanking shackles of Southern plantation servitude, continues to lull them to sleep with false promises of a bright tomorrow, which never comes. Let me add this. They did a survey for 100 years of that type of work, and it came out to be that we could pay the whole debt of America and still have about the same amount. I think, what is it, 27 trillion left over, okay? They will be debt-free, and us too. And we up for just 100 years. I ain't even add another 300. Let's keep on going. The fight against Muhammad has united Negro and white in a bond of common unity, seldom achieved in the past, most certainly not against the Ku Klux Klan, the white citizens' councils, the avowed proponents of white supremacy, and the states' rights and conservatives who, let me pause right here for a minute. People be so scary and about the Ku Klux Klan. I've been around the Ku Klux Klan by myself. It ain't all what you think it is with the Ku Klux Klan. It's how you perceive it, and it's how it's like let me say it like this, like a dog can smell you when you fear. Smell your fear, and you wonder why you get bit. But if you can't smell no fear, like a snake or whatever, you know what I'm saying, making them scary movements, ain't gonna mess with you. I'm just gonna tell you from my truth. Let's keep on going. The avowed proponents of white supremacy and the states' rights and conservatives who, ever since Abraham Lincoln issued his Emancipation Proclamation freeing the slaves, have labored without let-up to return the black man to actual physical slavery in the South, and then deny him the meager, hard-earned, and costly freedoms he has won in the courts. Through the Christian church, these bitter foes of Muhammad and the Negro have established as a disgraceful worldwide criterion of Christianity the same. 11 o'clock on Sunday is America's most segregated hour. To change this, Negroes are being egged into pitiful kneeling demonstrations at lily white churches in both North and South, making such debasing spectacles of themselves in order to be admitted to the house of worship, bow down to the same God the white man claims has ordered him to keep black people out, But Muhammad, who doesn't admit whites to his spiritual meetings in his mosque on Sunday, is bitterly accused of practicing race hatred because he does not believe in it helps the Negroes' cause to let the white man in on everything he does or thinks. I think that's race hatred. Compounding this unreasonable hatred and opposition to Muhammad is the fact that so many Negro so-called leaders have jumped, make it jump on the white bandwagon, trying to drown out Muhammad's bitter truths. You know, like it's in the Quran, make noise, maybe we are overcome. They speak at every rally and meeting in which he appears. Actually, the fight on Muhammad and his program can be summed up on the issues listed here. They oppose him because, listen now, 1, the truth he teaches is too unpleasant to hear. And the complacent, both Negro and white, don't want to hear it. Nor do they want anyone else to hear it. What? 2, he stirs up the masses of Negroes in a way no one since the heyday of Marcus Garvey has done in telling them straight up to stand up and be men, like my little grandson say, man up. 3, they cannot break up his ever-growing following without starting major race riots and other outbreaks, which would be political suicide for any official to attempt at this time or at any time in the future. Muhammad is independent, and they oppose that. They oppose him being independent. What? No white money backs him. No white man calls the shots. They oppose that as to what his organization can demand for him as an accounting of his stewardship. They oppose that. This, he says simply, he owes only to his own people. They oppose that. Number 5, he teaches race solidarity and unity. They oppose that. He preaches that the number 1 motto of black people everywhere must be all for one and one for all. They oppose that. If the race is to lift itself by its own bootstraps from the mess of ignorance and slavery, we ain't got nothing from to this day. It is in today, and they oppose that. He sees that others cannot see. Unlettered as he is, Elijah Muhammad has the uncanny but God-given ability to accurately prophesy about the future, and they oppose that. His knowledge of the true history of the world's black people is awesome and comes from years of concentrated study and research, and they oppose that. That is why he is called the messenger of Allah, and they oppose that. He steps on to many toes. Truth is impersonal and a two-edged sword, cutting down the lies, deceits, and half-truths with equally empathetic swipes on all sides, and they oppose that. Muhammad tears the veil of falsehood aside and exposes the phonies. They oppose that. The fearful and the mountebanks among both Negroes and whites, he exposed them, and they oppose that. Number 8, he teaches Negroes to first love one another, and they oppose that. This perhaps is the phase of his teachings that has aroused such widespread criticism that he teaches his people to hate the white man. Muhammad says you won't have the capacity to love anybody else if you concentrate all your love on your fellow black man. If the white man shows so little love or even respect for the black man, he points out, but they don't oppose that. Why should Negroes spend so much time running around begging their brothers to love those who do not have the same measure of regard or love for blacks? He gives the little Negro true leadership. They oppose that. This tenet of Muhammad's credo is also widely seen as a source of the general jealousy of him held by Negro politicians, Negro social workers, and some ministers. They oppose. For until Muhammad came along, only an isolated few Negro organizations, including churches, had the time of day for the largely illiterate, poverty-stricken, superstitious, exploited masses. They wasn't thinking about it. Praising the Lord, whatever they want, and gone. See you later. Instead, the concentration was on improving the conditions of living of the high school and college educated middle class Negro. Ain't thinking about none of them niggas at the bottom. The well-to-do policy kings and real estate insurance and funeral tycoons were wooed, and the nickel and dime Negroes shooed away to the tender mercies of storefront churches, preachers, or sidewalk soapbox orators. 10. He has had the courage to open schools of his own in order to prepare young Negroes for what they must face and cope with in making a better world for themselves and their descendants. And they oppose that. We don't want that. Up to the day he opened his first University of Islam, we don't want that either. In Detroit, the only Negro-owned and operated schools and colleges were backed by such church groups as the African Methodist Episcopals and Baptists and a few other denominations, and they opposed that. Muhammad's universities in Detroit, Chicago, and elsewhere have highly trained facilities, and they oppose that, and are distinguished by the fact that children in the 3rd grade are speaking Arabic fluently. They oppose that. And working difficult problems in algebra, they oppose that. 11. He lifts up Negro women and removes them from the status of being prostitutes for white men. Quote, what they call them? Wrenches or whatever, bed wrenches. And guess what? He opposed that. This startling development in the Muhammad program is unprecedented for scarlet women, saved by the churches, always carrying the stinging distinction of their former lives. Muhammad relieves them of all disgrace, and they oppose that, and gives them a new life based on purity and self-respect. They oppose that. At the same time, he makes it mandatory that his male followers honor their own women as individual examples of virtue, and they oppose that. 12. He goes among the fallen of his people and redeems the wino, the alcoholic, the narcotics addict, the prostitute, the sidewalk hoodlum, the thief, and the profane. And they oppose it. A visit to any Muhammad mosque of Islam will reward the student seeking to see for himself calm, quiet, self-contained, efficiency, and pride is seen on every hand. And they oppose that. No singing or spiritual and gospel songs or loud shouting or amens and groans disturb his service. His followers acknowledge his and his assistance, scoring of points with hand applause only. And they oppose that. More white writers, authors, and journalists are writing about Elijah Muhammad and his Mosque of Islam movement, who have never met him, heard or talked to him than any black man in recent history, because they have never met or talked in person with the man. Most of these writers for national magazines and newspapers take a hostile attitude toward him. Almost to a man, they accuse Muhammad of teaching his followers to hate the white man, condemn him severely for racism. Like he wants you to go around saying, I guess I hate you, white man. And what else? You full of racism. And allege he is teaching black supremacy. Few write that Muhammad is teaching black people to love themselves and their race. First. Nor do they point out that any person or people thus engaged have little or no time to go around loving everybody, turning the other cheek, and otherwise wasting valuable effort and time that today keeps the black man on the bottom rung of the ladder. They fail to point out that Jesus Christ failed to teach humanity to love the man or men who beat, kill, or enslave it, or to hop sprawling about with grinning lips when the enslaver heaves into view, anxious to serve and make him happy, even though the slave is still in chains. Economic chains, political chains, and social chains. I know y'all bear witness to that one. These writers view with alarm and seem perturbed that Muhammad's irrefutable logic tells his followers the truth, that as a race, they are third class in the white man's political and economic system, and not to be content with partial freedom, with the gloomy promise that some distant day in the future, the so-called Negro will be completely free at last. None has the courage to ask why this freedom isn't given to black man now. What's wrong with now? Huh? What's wrong with the paying up now? Huh? What's wrong with right now? Huh? From fear of life, limb, property, and mind, since the dominant whites have the power to give or withhold it. Since you got the power to give, why about now, right now? Since you opposing so much. But you also got the power to withhold right now, like you doing, even though you had the power to give it up right now. Not next year, 10 years, 20 years, right now. Like Ukraine and China and everybody else, they ain't even did nothing. They just come with the handout. Okay, I'll give you some. Huh? But us, when you can do it right now too, you giving it to them right now. They ain't even work for nothing. Come on with the handout. Here you go. Let me see what I got in my pocket. What you need? 100,000? Yeah, here you go. You need 300 more thousand? Okay. You need some more? Okay. You need something crossing the border? Okay. You say you need, I can't give you nothing right now. Oh, I ain't got enough right now. Right now. They never say much about the fact that white supremacy has been and still is the basis of Western world power politics, and that is the present in all phases of American and European life. Yet Muhammad is condemned and looked upon as some kind of social criminal because he has the rare courage to tell his people and the world that there is such a thing as a supreme black man. What? To these writers, black supremacy sounds like a foul, sinister plot to liberate some fierce, ferocious black animals on an unsuspecting, innocent white world. Oh no! They assert that this black supremacy doctrine Muhammad teaches is all wrong. But they themselves never put the white man in a secondary position. That is reserved for the blacks. The black man, they imply, could never make it alone without the support and help of the white man. As an example of this darkly, that the new black African nations will fall apart in internecine and tribal wars, petty jealousies, ignorance, and primitive passions, because they are chasing the white man out after all these centuries of colonial exploitation. Exploit. One can detect, like them women, African women, one can detect, oh, I don't have no job right now, or right now, if you want to get in the front of the line, you have to do me a couple of favors, you know. Exploitation. One can detect in reports from South Africa, in the daily papers and magazines, the natural fears of the Western world that the blacks will at last gain their freedom and take over the rulership of their own land. Take over time. I say, Muhammad got the devil on the run. Run, devil, run. Freedom and take over the rulership. Who ruling? Your land. South Africa. They are running now. That's definitely what they're doing. This many writers describe in left-handed terms will be an awful calamity. And as soon as the whites leave their modern structures and the ever-stocked trough at which they have been stuffing themselves ever since they subjected Africa, Shaka Zulu, the whole house will come tumbling down. Such thinking argues that black men need the white supremacy symbol, even if it is only to save them from themselves. What? But for Elijah Muhammad to spell out the facts of the matter and arouse his people to glowing pride in their newly given knowledge that there can be such a creature as a supreme black man or black race. It's akin to treason in the eyes of these self-appointed guardians of the black man's thoughts and racial destiny, as there could be a supreme red man, as there can be a supreme yellow man, as there can be a supreme brown man. But you don't hear me though. What strikes me as most encouraging is the fact that Muhammad's aloftness and unavailability to these white writers, authors, and radio and television commentators has for the first time presented to America a black leader who has the ability, the power, and desire to stay out of their churches. And I'm not talking about a color when I see the black leader, because the supreme black, brown, red, yellow, and in law, po white could be a black leader too. Okay. So-called Negro leaders, the Negro press, and others who have been brainwashed for so many centuries think it a high crime that Muhammad doesn't run and tell the whites what he is doing every day, like on Vlad TV, or let them infiltrate his meetings and conferences where he is carrying on his work or trying to teach his people self-respect and self-reliance and point out the pitfalls around them, whether physical or mental. When Raymond, Moley, Harry, Ashmore, the editors of Time magazine, and the stooge Negro reporters for white papers, whoop, 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 into Muhammad's meetings to stool pigeon for the whites who are not admitted, try to compare the Mosque of Islam movement with the white supremacy Ku Klux Klan or the white councils of both the South and North. They do not explain why they are campaigning as assiduously to break up the Klan and councils in their writings as they are in seeking the disintegration of the movement started by Muhammad. Meanwhile, in spite of all attempts by policia, and federal authorities to block the growth of the Mosque of Islam, baller blocking, political blocking, why are you blocking us? Or to shut Muhammad's mouth, the religion is rapidly mushrooming into perhaps the largest all-black movement on the North American continent. Wherever the brilliant, sincere, dedicated, mild-mannered little man is heard or people read his writings, new converts are coming forth to be counted among the chosen. They have learned that there is no white man alive who can and will tell the so-called Negro what he actually wants. No, that ain't what I want. No, this is what you want. No, that ain't what I want. And none will tell him truthfully how to get it. No, that ain't how you get it. No, this is how you get it. You go to school till you get to the 12th grade, then you go to college for 2 to 16 years more, and then you get a job with, man. And that's how you do it. No, that ain't how you do it. That ain't doing like that. That ain't how you get it. Because I done seen them out there, doctors, all that time, and they ain't get it. Saying they gonna get it, they ain't got it. Told me I was gonna get it. I ain't get it either. I done had it and they took it from me. I was about to get it and they bought it, man. I was about to get it again, and the cool man in all kinds of manner to tear me off from it. I could have got it. But did I get it? Hell no. And the quickest way to come into possession of this fundamental truth about the black man's true self and destiny. For most persons, the general conception of a Negro leader runs something like this. In size, he is big and imposing and has a fat, well-fed appearance. Like that little woman jumped up on, that little police woman jumped up on top of that and enjoying. He wears expensive clothes and is always immaculate. He smokes big fat cigars. Some people call them things that black men, black endowed men have, and makes it part of his daily routine to be seen dining in the more popular restaurants and cafes, up on top where, first class only. He is typed by the costly liquors he orders, like Ciroc. The make of automobile he drives, Bentley. And the wide swath he cuts at interracial parties, like an all-white party with P. Diddy. And affairs where the black and white sit down to talk this thing over, like Dr. Phil and Phil Donahue. Whenever he is mentioned in the newspapers, the writer has to include much of his biography to inform readers who he is and what he means. Such biographical material detailing his school and college background, his employment record, especially in government and social work or teaching, and the various honors he has received, such as rewards and honorary appointments, since he first entered public life. I got more than you could probably count. Still ain't get it. On the other hand, I'm actual fact living. On the other hand, you don't read biographical stuff on Elijah Muhammad as a means of introducing him to readers. That is, unless the story is printed in a white paper, which generally goes out of its way to reiterate the paper's view of the spiritual leader of America's 250,000 Muslims as being head of a black supremacy cult that preaches hate, the white man doctrine, to his Negro followers. But they ain't gave us nothing yet. So what is it? Hate that you ain't gave it to us yet, or it's love you ain't gave it to us yet? I think the answer is clear for a baby. You won't find any newspaper recording the presence of Elijah Muhammad at any kind of cocktail party because he preaches against the use of liquor in any form. He does not participate in interracial socialing because he believes the Negro weakens himself morally as well as spiritually by breaking his neck to get into the company of white persons. But you have a lot of them up on top and beside you that be drinking liquor. And Muhammad does not smoke, but they be you be uplifting all them smokers. Instead, he admonishes followers against the use of tobacco or any narcotics. Where's yours not using narcotics, tobacco, and alcohol? Like, put them out front. I think that would be more just. In size, Elijah Muhammad stands a 12 foot, 5 feet, 6 inches for what he might lack in height. He makes up in inner power and dedication to what to him is a 20th century holy crusade to deliver the black man from his present economic, political, and social shackles. He weighs a modest 150 pounds and in the mid 60s is in constantly perfect physical condition. Those who have had the rare privilege of visiting him at his home in Hyde Park agree that he presents the picture of a sober, noble father of a well-beloved family. It is the dwelling of a dedicated man surrounded by a family also dedicated to the salvation of a race of people. In an atmosphere of profound quiet, Mr. Muhammad's day begins at 7:30 a.m. Until late at night, he dictates letters, speeches, newspaper columns, and articles to his 4 highly competent young secretaries. During his day, starting at the breakfast table, he opens and reads every one of the more than 300 letters he receives daily from Muslim leaders in Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America. Are you receiving information from Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America on your platforms? Over 300 just texts or emails. All mail is answered. Mr. Muhammad's speeches are prepared for personal delivery in his weekly speaking engagements. You don't need the 4 secretaries, you got the AI. In his weekly speaking engagements in cities. There go your speaking engagements in cities. Before you speak, you got to walk it around the nation, or for his program on radio stations. Get your program on the radio, get your podcast now, all over the country. Get your podcast all over the country now. Raising up the bar for you. Since you think you all that compared to the ones you be looking at down below you. That's your brother too. Let's look up. Okay. His busy day also includes conference. Come on, Button. I'm talking about you, Button. Conferences in Negro businessmen. His busy day also include conferences with Negro businessmen. Let's get them businessmen conferences going, okay? And ministers. Let's get them, Button. And with officials. Come on. Drink champs of his various mosques who fly in and out of Chicago 7 days of the week to take counsel with him. You hear that, Hassan? Very unique in the history of American Negro leadership is the origination of a program that is established on a premise of what Negroes can do for themselves without support from white people. Without support. A program that fires the latent embers of intense Black nationalism with a clear-cut, glorious goal as its ultimate objective. According to Marcus Garvey, with his Back to Africa exhortations during the early 1920s and his nationwide phalanx of 5 million Black followers in the Universal Negro Improvement Association electrified the Black world of America's Negro masses as no other movement up to his time. He bad. Oh, he was bad. Still is compared to most. They ain't touching. They still knocked out. The same results have been evident since Elijah Muhammad introduced his beneficial temples of Islam. His bold demands that Black folk throw off the shackles of the white man's Christianity and return to Islam. What you mean return? Christianity just a baby. The religion of our ancestors has brought Negroes from all levels swarming to his banner. Islam, yeah, freedom, justice, and equality. Live your life. Live your life in freedom, justice, and equality. That's Islam. Okay. Admittedly, ain't I'm doing that with Christianity? I don't know. You must have got it. Did you get it? Oh, you ain't get it yet. Okay. Well, that ain't no freedom. That ain't no justice. And that ain't no equality. Okay. Let's keep going. Admittedly, an unlettered man, the tiny spiritual leader of the fast-growing Muslim movement in the Western Hemisphere, nonetheless, has self-authored more literature of his own views of his program than any of his predecessors in Negro leadership. So if you got a program, you should be writing literature. You should be writing some books on it. Okay? Negro leadership. Week after week, his flaming controversial newspaper columns is in prominent Negro weeklies and his own newspaper. Where your magazine at? Or something. Man, it's 2024. Raise up your bar, man. You ain't there yet. Don't get too comfortable now. Muhammad speaks, and thousands of sermons recorded for radio delivery on miles of tape are unprecedented in Negro organizational literature. Don't go to sleep now. Not even Garvey, with his giant weekly newspaper, the Negro World, with a peak circulation in 1921 of more than 800,000 copies. Have you sold 800,000 copies of anything yet? I want to know. If they really love you. With a peak circulation in 1921 of more than 800,000 copies, comes close to the personal output of words of the defatigable Mr. Muhammad. For most of the Negro world was devoted to articles, editorials, and news stories written by others, with comparatively very little from the pen of Garvey's himself. If ever correlated and put into book form, the writings of Elijah Muhammad, to date will be a conservative estimate, make a minimum of 24 of volumes. That's 24 volumes. And Muhammad's writings, despite his lack of formal education, are built on separate words designed for permanency. Every word in his writings is fashioned with loving care and a supreme regard for truth. Regard for truth. What he writes is told in the language of the little fellow, so there can be no mistakes or confusion of purpose or shades of meaning. This phase of his writing habits is undertaken daily with the help of highly trained and dedicated young women secretaries, where you can use AIs today. The messenger of Allah is meticulously about what he writes and insists that not a word be changed when his final drafts are completed. The result is that what he says is unmistakable. For what he puts on paper is exactly what he wants to convey. And there is the core of what makes his program for the salvation of the American black man so comprehensible and beneficial. Readers, whether or not they agree with him, are forced to admit that man is telling us the truth. Let me say it again. That man, not boy, but it's cool if it was a boy or a girl or a woman, but that man is telling us the truth, and they oppose that. With that being stated by Daniel Burley, hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it. Some better guidance for your next day. Until then, family, keep your heads up, stay focused, and read. I guess we'll go out with a few bangers before we go out today, since this is the last one for the day. We've been rolling on this one for a minute. That's all right, though. Let's go out with some bangers. Jackpot, rainbow, X-Spot. Jackpot, rainbow, X-Spot. Jackpot, rainbow, X-Spot. Jackpot, rainbow, X-Spot. Jackpot, rainbow, X-Spot.
I hit the jackpot, man, it's like a dream come true. In a casino lights where the sky's never blue. Coins falling like ram in a different zone. Feeling like a king sitting on a golden throne. The room's electric, the crowd going wild. Tears and scream, can't believe my own child. I'm on fire, my luck's burning like the flame. I'm in the near paradise, I find my flame to fame. Yeah. Jackpot now, jackpot now, jackpot now.
Tryna put the sign on me, back of the line with me. Find your ass in the streets, over there line to the T. Tryna run the line on me, turn your back to the street. Compulsory line on me, know you worry spying on me. Get behind in the street, always lag on me. Quick to turn your back on me, give your back to the street. Woman tryna snap on me, reach back and slap on me, give your back to the street. And with that being stated, family, keep your heads up, stay focused, and read. Peace. And another thing, before we get out of here, because y'all a little spooky. A white man is a certain type of mind state as well. A certain type of culture, a certain type of living, just like the black man, okay? Don't look at it as a skin color. It's not a skin color. It's a mentality, okay? It's a mentality. If you can describe any person with a more hell-raising mind state than certain individuals, you can go. But we got some grafted ones. That we got some black men out here and women out here. They going crazy. Them hyenas and stuff. They about they out there too. They some grafted white men because they born righteous, but they ain't living righteous. So they could be white men. Your mama could be the white man. She may be blacker than a dot, but she could be the white man. And I ain't even lying. That's the straight truth. Until next time, family, keep your heads up, stay focused, and read. And we'll get back to it and break it down more. If you need some answers, if you got some questions, leave your questions down in the comments. I will get all of your questions answered. I guarantee you that. Lay it on me. Lay it on me. I guarantee I get your question answered. What? Till next time, keep your heads up, stay focused, read. We out. I don't know who you thought I would.